If you're an average player, you want to be left alone, right? Because you want to be able to slide by. If you're a good player, you want to be coached. If you're a great player, you want the coach to tell you the truth every day. Did I hustle on that play? Did I make the right read? Did I play the guy with the right leverage? You want to know every play. Because you know why? They want to be perfect. Everybody here makes a choice to do one of those three things.
Welcome to the GOAT Consulting Podcast, a podcast dedicated to people striving to be a GOAT, the greatest of all time, serving it up in a way that you can get it in all stages of life. Hey, I'm Colby Jubenville, and welcome to another episode of the GOAT Consulting Podcast right here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee at Pod Studio One. We have a new face at the table. We'll introduce her in just a second.
Yep.
We got a great show for you today. To the right, as always, from the GOAT Empire, the GOAT family of brands, my good friend, the inventor of the GOAT brand itself, Tyler Burnett. All he does is punt, kick, catch passes, and was born in 1950. Tyler, thanks for being here today.
You're very well presented.
We found all that out today.
The new green hat.
And the new green hat.
Yeah.
I like
always rolling out new hats.
Yeah, you like that?
I'm going to need one of those.
And
We'll get everybody one.
to the left at the table, always that drove over, made the big drive from Brentwood, but is always on time. We appreciate that.
Some of us.
We call him the LinkedIn Whisperer. He's the calming force to our show. None other than John Byers.
Makes
you
great
for that.
babies.
Yes,
Makes great
that's
babies.
what he says.
Well, we'll talk.
That's what he says.
And delivers great babies.
You better be more
That's
involved.
more accurate.
And a special guest sitting at the table with us today that has a great story.
I feel like we need a pause. This is a pretty big deal.
This is our first guest ever.
I'm really excited.
Add it.
I can't believe I'm the first.
Epic.
Add it to your
First.
many accomplishments. But Rachel Layton, who is not only a state champion,
Oh, wow.
from what I hear, but also today serves as managing partner for the Juice Bar.
That's true.
But in between being a state champion
It's hard to do.
and where you are today, there are so many moments that some might call you the man.
That's right.
But interestingly enough, you're a woman.
I know. It's a little confusing for folks.
And
I hope we're going to talk a little more about that.
well, we are, but you always use LinkedIn to find the most incredible people. And once again, you've done it again. I'm sure he did meet you through LinkedIn.
You know, I think we met in person at an event. It was for Young Leaders Council.
It's very, sorry to let you down so soon.
Now he quickly linked with me right after that and
Okay.
maintained that relationship. But we
Okay.
did exchange emails, you know.
All that traditional old stuff.
Yeah.
Prior 2020.
And we were also, I think maybe through Young Leaders Council or through the NELAs, the Emerging Leaders
Yep.
Award that we won, I think, around the
Yep.
same time. So I didn't have anybody else in my category that year. I think Rachel had about 47 people in hers. So, I'm just going to say this podcast with Rachel almost didn't happen because when I talked to her about joining us and we were talking about goats, and I hope she'll share some of those today. I
brought
was
some.
talking about Tupac, and she said he's not a goat, and I said I'm not sure we can be friends anymore.
It just depends on what side of the road
No.
you're from.
This
you know,
is,
I mean,
you're not going to do this today.
It's tough.
You've already cut me deep
We love
with
each
that.
other through it, but we do disagree on some things.
Part of the reason you're here,
Yep.
and we're so glad about that.
yeah,
pretty
you said
exciting.
you
Thanks
wanted to
for
share just a moment from her bio or
Well, I thought
touch on that?
Rachel was talking a little bit about her background, how she got to where she is today, and I'm not a big fan of reading bios, but there was a couple of sound bites that I thought, Colby, you unpacked from the Google, I imagine.
Yeah.
The Google
And-
machine.
I just thought it was worth reading. I mean, she'll share about how she got to this point. She's going to sum that up for us here in a moment. But in 2 years, in the 2 years that she spent at Taziki's, the same store sales surged by double digits.
Mm-hmm.
Really impressive. So much so, and I think during that time you were the first female executive of the parent company.
Yes. And the youngest, yeah.
And the youngest.
Ooh, got Tyler beat. Keep going.
Oh, wow.
Well, we're not going to talk about age.
1950 was not that long ago.
Only one of them's wearing beard sheen today.
That's right.
Thank God.
We'll let everybody guess who it is.
But here's one of the things that was said. It says that Rachel as a leader in our company has demonstrated not only the kind of young, motivated expertise we look for, but also the willingness to take risks. These are new times we're living in, and she embodies our guest first focus. And I just thought she's a legend in the community. She's a legend in the industry.
She's a goat.
She's a goat, for sure. And why not have her join us for some good conversation? One of these things is not like the other here at the table. She's going to bring a unique perspective,
absolutely.
which we talk about.
That's right.
From a unique education, a unique perspective.
Yeah.
And experience, and I thought this was just such a great time. And I'll say this too, because I think this will lead into the topic a little bit, and hopefully you'll talk a little more about this. But does anybody remember at the beginning of Jerry Maguire, and also at the beginning of this podcast, if you haven't listened, wherever you stream music, go back, tell your friends, tell your lovers. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, it'll be on there. But we talk about Jerry Maguire in the first episode. Mm-hmm. So I won't rehash that. You'll have to go back and listen. But does anybody remember in the movie what he names the mission statement? It's not a memo. It's a mission statement. Does anybody remember the name of it for kudos?
Did you
extra
watch
points?
it after the first episode?
I did watch it.
Of course.
There's
What is
one
it?
line out of there that I really love in that movie. And
Is
we'll
it
have
the
to
same
have a
one?
discuss that off
conversation.
camera.
Okay.
The name of the mission statement is the things we think and do not say, the future of our business.
The things we think and do not say. And I thought, I've been holding on to something publicly for a long time that might frame up this particular conversation really well.
That's good.
Thanks, Jerry.
Yeah.
35. He has his moment.
Yeah.
And this might be mine.
Well, here's what I want to say. If you read her bio too, it says that she's the brand's first ever female executive and was a core member of the team that put Taziki's in a position to leverage innovation and technology, overcome labor and supply chain challenges, and remain profitable during the pandemic.
She's the man.
And she's the man. And so all those things together, one of the things that we talk about this podcast and that makes this podcast what it is that goats are easy to spot in sports. They're the people that are recognized for the greatness. They elevate everybody else around them. But in business, it's different. Goats compete on unique perspective, education, and experience. What they do gives them energy, gives other people energy. And also what they do creates new levels of challenge and new levels of opportunity. And when I read that bio and when John gives that quote about you, it makes me think about that idea. One of the other things is you'll see this big bottle of syrup from Waffle House, not Walmart, that we
Somebody
here.
asked me if it was tea.
It's not
I thought
tea.
it was at first, but then I got it.
We're gonna pour it all over the table today,
Oh, wow.
but we serve it up in a way that you can get it.
Yep.
And one of the things that I love about reading those two things is obviously, and listen to your background, that you serve it up in a way that you can get it for other people, and that you certainly are somebody that competes on unique perspective, education, experience. And so we appreciate you being here today.
Thanks for having me.
Epic moment.
Yeah,
I know.
John's done a great job of framing it up. I think Jerry is right when he says, do you remember that moment where he said he wrote the mission statement? The things we think and do not say. Do you remember the song in the background?
Oh, my.
Ooh, whoa.
It's The Who, I'm in Tune.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go back and read, now that we're sort of keynoting out what this moment was about. I think the thing for me, I don't know how much you guys know about the Enneagram. I'm a 7 on the Enneagram. So I spend a lot of time trying to maintain my presence when I'm with people and not be thinking 7 steps ahead.
Yeah.
But one of the things I started doing during COVID was just making those moments happen. Like if I'm thinking about you and, you know, your family and what's going on, I'm just going to I'm not going to leave it unsaid. I'm going to shoot a text and say, hey, I'm just thinking about you this morning. You're on my mind. I hope everything's going well. And that was a practice that 2020 gifted me because I was trying to regain my happiness and my joy with not being able to hug anymore and not being able to see people in person anymore. And even when I do see them, a lot of times they are having to wear a mask and I can't see their face and connect with them in the way I would. So, I mean, I think it's many tiered. But yeah, in business, I think one of the things that's unique is I tend to really like the folks who stay behind the curtain. There are some greats on my list. And I tried really hard not to put too many people who were cliche on here because I have listened to other episodes.
Well,
Some of
hold on
them
a
have been
second.
named.
Before you go there, because I'm excited for you to share your goats.
I'm excited. I really worked hard on this list for you.
I believe that. Can you just give us like the 60-second to 2-minute version of how you got here, because your career and how you've gotten to where you are today is pretty impressive. Can you walk us through and our global audience through that, please?
Thank you. Yes, I can. Let me make sure I check the time before I tell you this long story. So I started out in radio broadcasting. I wanted to get out of class more and go to vocational. So the easiest one that looked like the most fun was radio. It was really fun to do, even more fun than I expected. And I happened to be pretty much like good at it because I loved talking. I got trained through that vocational, and the accolade that was being referenced was a high school broadcasting championship and radio news. I went into it actually not expecting to win that, and it's still, sometimes I think back on that time and think, how amazing was that to be able to get that. And at the time I was 17 years old, so it was really my first big accolade. And so I got that, and then I went to college. I fought with my parents about where I was going to go, but it made it kind of easy because my boyfriend at the time was already at Ball State. It's 30 minutes from where I was from, which is well known for David Letterman being the one that went there. He does have a plaque on the wall that says C's get degrees.
Oh yeah.
Which I'm kind
awesome.
of into that. I don't really personally like C's on my scorecard, but I'm okay with like that idea.
Yeah.
So anyway, I went there for radio broadcasting, telecommunications, and I thought for sure I was going to be in TV. Came down to Nashville, the top 25 market in the time, and I was very excited to be able to get in and get my feet wet and use my degree, which is what everybody wants to do. Nashville was actually in the process of recouping from the flood. And so the recession went on a lot longer here. A lot of people...
So this is 10 years ago.
Yep. A lot of people have forgotten how
Oprah was already gone.
Right. Luckily, she left a vacancy that I was able to, capitalize on. But yeah, I mean, so Nashville was still struggling through financially. There weren't a lot of jobs, and as we all know and love Nashville for it, it's a big small town. So I was brand new, 22 years old, and didn't have any contacts here. I just loved this place, and I loved what it was about. And the friendliest city in the U.S. was still true even back then. And so I started waiting tables because I couldn't really find a job. I got a couple offers that were a little below what I was looking for.
Yeah.
And so,
We've all been there.
Yep, I started waiting tables. I met some folks. I went to work for a couple corporate companies, and I realized pretty quickly it just really wasn't a good fit for me. I never really was built to sit in a cube farm and just hammer out tasks. I love people. I love serving. I love treating people to, hospitality.
Yeah.
So after working in the corporate world for a little bit, I told my mom I'm quitting my job right now. I was in the car on the phone with her crying in the parking lot.
I've been there too.
Yeah. We all have those moments of breakdown.
Yeah.
And she's like, you're not quitting your job, for one, because you have bills. But for two, why don't you be a part of the solution instead of a part of the problem by just walking away? So I was like, okay, yeah, you're probably right.
What do you think she meant by that?
My mom has always kind of been one of the people that will never let you quit. So I really identify with the sports stuff that we were kind of talking about before the show started. I grew up playing sports as well. And there was a lot of times where I just want to quit.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, no, you don't quit.
What was your sport?
I played volleyball, was probably one of my favorites.
Okay.
I played softball all my life.
Okay.
And honestly, all kinds of things in between. I did track. I ran the 400. I did high jump. I know you guys saw I wasn't that tall. For everybody who's not able to see me right now, it was it was kind of unique.
It didn't go through my mind, but
yeah.
I mean,
I was a high jumper because I was a volleyball front row attacker, so I had the jumping.
You just like to compete.
Yes, I love to compete.
Yeah, me too.
And
but
tennis.
in that moment, she said, "Be a part of the solution, not the problem."
Yeah.
You internalize that to mean what?
I think looking back, so I was very frustrated in the moment, and I was 23 years old. So I don't think I had a good vantage point of what
Emotional?
was. I don't think I had a good vantage point of what was to come. I didn't really. I wasn't. I wish I could say at that point I was I knew that the universe was going to pick me.
Yep.
But I was frustrated, and she was basically saying, "Do something about it. Help yourself."
Okay.
And I think growing up, my family did an amazing job, always reinforcing to me, like, there's something special about you. Why don't you use that talent and that gift in a way that helps others? And I was fortunate to have that support from my family.
Yeah.
And so I went, out and looked, and I talked to a couple folks about what's next. And I had a good mentor say, like, if you don't know what to do, it's time to go back to school and learn something new.
Yeah.
And so I started looking at law school and business school. And a good friend of mine, her husband was an attorney. And I said, hey, I don't know if she told you, but I'm thinking about studying for the LSAT and becoming an attorney. And I'm pretty excited about it. And he was like, you're way too happy to be an attorney. That would be the biggest mistake of your life.
Wow.
Not that you wouldn't be good at it, but no.
Whoever you are, thank you for telling her that.
And I was shocked by that. And so I said, okay, well, I guess I'll study for the GMAT. And I ended up going to Belmont. And I had a great time there. And I think very fondly of all that I learned at Belmont. Again, one of the greats, Jack C. Massey, is, his name is on the business school there. And so I ended up studying there, and through that, I got to work for Arthur Laffer, the father of supply side economics. And
saw him on the news this morning.
Yes, he's on there quite a bit, big contributor, and he taught me a lot about supply side economics, which the theory is that life is about incentives and disincentives. For me, I think that was a really critical stepping stone for me to understand how marketing and sales and those things work, because you can incentivize people to do something, and accidentally you can disincentivize them.
True.
And knowing that, I kind of built my marketing ethos around that. Like, how do I trigger behavior based off of that? And marketing is really just a magnifying glass. It's a fine art and a fine science all in one. So I spent some time sort of trying to understand what I wanted to do. And I got, luckily, a great conversation with Arthur Laffer Jr., his son, who was also involved in the business. He said, what are you doing here? And actually just bumped into him recently. We had this conversation. I was like, am I getting fired? I've actually never been fired before. And he's like, no, you're not getting fired, but what are you going to do with your life? And I'm like, work here? And he's like, no. So not long after that, I ran into local restaurateur Andy Marshall. He is really the father, CEO, proprietor of A. Marshall Hospitality. They own Puckett's, Deacon's, New South, and downtown.
I've read that you are single-handedly credited for putting them on the map.
Man, I wish I could take that credit.
I mean, they only had 3 restaurants before you got there.
I helped them open 8 of 11, but I was sort of wore multiple hats there, and it was all the team. It was just really the dream team at that time. Andy was very much, and he always has been, a great champion of women. His daughter was in the process of kind of coming up in the business. She was the director of operations when I got there, and now she's the COO. And he was just sort of putting the right people in the right places to work together and make the most out of it. And we had an awesome team, and we were just all kind of firing on all cylinders, and that's the holy grail of happiness. After being there with him for 4 years, I realized I really wanted to grow into even more leadership. And I got a chance to go work for Taziki's, which you were referencing a lot of my accolades from there. And when I came into Taziki's, I got a lot of new lessons. Being a first-time executive is a big one. Learning about the franchising world, which is totally different than the world that I started in, and getting a more global view of what is a national company and what does it mean to run one. So, I spent some time there, had a lot of fun, and we, again, had a dream team. We were able to just execute a lot of things, be very agile, and run the business like a small business, but we were really big. And we benefited a lot from that, and it was a great year in 2019. I was starting to feel like I was, ready for my next step, and then the tornado happened.
Right.
And the world stood still here in Nashville. And so immediately the heart behind Taziki's was like, let's serve. So all we did for 2 weeks was show up with food. And it was so much like, it was invigorating to me to be out and just serving and feeding, because that's what we do. That's why we do what we do. And Taziki's has a very philanthropic heart. It starts, with the founder and the board and the executive team, and it was amazing to do that. And then, I felt like I was starting to come up for air just in time to see our business disappear in 2 days. We were on another path for a record year, and in 2 days, overnight, basically, the business went away, 90%.
Yeah.
And so it was shocking.
What do you do then?
Yep, it was shocking. And I thought to myself, well, I really can't leave at this moment and let them be in this position. So, I stayed and grinded it out. And, we led a sales recovery as a team. We reinvented the business overnight. And we started figuring out, okay, if our customers can't come to us, how do we come to them? And that actually was one of the best things that ever happened to the business because we learned to refocus on the customer.
Yeah.
And, I think being able to be a part of that recovery was, again, another gift for me. It was a lot of lessons to learn how to do more with less. And I think the restaurant industry got optimized by 2020. There's a lot of things that we had to rethink, retool, and invent.
Push the envelope.
Yep.
You probably stopped somewhat pushing the envelope.
That's right. And things that would have been totally out of bounds before became viable solutions that we started working as a plan. And then once we got them back to the 90% recovery, I kind of went into more of a consulting advisory role with them, and I started working on Juice Bar. And, since I've been at Juice Bar, we've turned a massive sales trajectory back around. We've been recovered 5%. We still have a ways to go. We've led a brand refresh, which has been so much fun because as a marketer by
That's
trade,
what you love to do.
that's kind of my jam.
Yeah.
We're getting ready to roll out a new menu. It's already in test in Brentwood and at the Gulch here in the Nashville area. It'll be rolling out nationally in January to the rest of the world. So, it's been fun. And I think one of the things that you always try to look back is like put the dotted line and like try to connect them throughout your whole story. For me, I think my path was just so unconventional, and really the real piece of thread that I think is connected is just me answering yes as much as I can, getting to that yes. And we were talking about sales before we got started, and I think being a natural salesperson, and always, I know John is one of the most gifted salespeople I've ever met, and it's because you can make it authentic and you can find a yes. And that kind of goes back again to economics and the supply side ideology of how do I incentivize a yes? How do I get this there? We don't have to say no. We can say yes.
So Rachel, when we were talking about the potential of her being on, she said, "Can we name the episode Youre the Man?" Can you?
I was wondering who came up with that.
It certainly couldn't have been one of us,
Right?
Well, actually, I do know who came up with that.
Oh,
Well, it's actually credited for it. Believe it or not, ironically, the person that is known most for saying "You're the man" is Dave Letterman.
Yep,
oh, look at that!
that's true.
See how we tie things in here.
I know. Look
So
at that beautiful ribbon that just swung around all of us.
That was what he would say on the show.
Yep, he did.
To celebrate his guests, meaning I think you are worthy of praise.
What did he say?
His
when it
version
was a
of the
woman?
goat, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
his
What did he
version
say
of
when
the
it was a woman?
You're the man.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
So I think we need to talk about some goats. You've got a
Yes,
couple.
I've got some goats, and I prepared for this, and I was really excited to see what you guys would think about some of
All
these.
right. I've got one too. I'm not sure you can beat it, but please.
Okay, well
try.
then we need to start with that.
No.
No, you got out there in front, so I'm gonna let you take it.
Well, thank you for gifting me with that. as you put it. When I think of the coned bra, there is only one person
This is a
on the-
very interesting start.
on the planet. And maybe we all don't know.
Yeah.
Tyler may not know.
Yeah.
But Madonna,
Under the bus.
Yeah.
Madonna is the goat.
Mm-hmm.
She is a goat. She's the goat.
I was thinking Dan Aykroyd.
VH1 labeled her as the greatest pop icon of all time. Now, they said behind David Beckham, but I don't even count that. That's not a thing. MTV, many have said, should stand for Madonna Television.
Wow. I
That's what
didn't
they
even
said.
know
Totally
that.
agree.
And she
Or
is
Martha Quinn.
She is a permanent fixture on every single list that talks about the world's most powerful, admired, or 3 different lists, influential women. Probably
Wow.
people, I would imagine. She's on a lot of those too.
If you're going to do that, you're going to tell us and our audience,
Your favorite?
yes,
Song.
song.
Well, I mean, I thought one of her most vulnerable moments when
I like
she
this. I like this.
when she was actually a virgin and sang about it.
Okay.
That's interesting.
Like
That's an
like a
interesting thought
virgin.
there.
Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and shift into my greats now.
I want to hear your song first. Your
What about
favorite Madonna
Alejandro?
song.
That was a good one too.
Mine's Holiday. You hear that song,
That is a good one.
and it takes you to a place.
That wasn't at the top for me. It is a great one, and
Yeah.
I actually do love it. But you know what? This is gonna blow your mind.
Okay.
Don't
Wow.
cry for me, Argentina. When I
wait,
remember
that's
being
the
like a
remake of
kid
that,
of
right?
that.
Is that the one I just named, or is that a different one? Alejandro. Is that in that song, or is that
I
a
think
different
it's
song?
I think it's the same.
Yeah.
But when I
You're
remember,
just a female perspective and
Yeah.
a
Yes,
male
it's different.
perspective.
I remember seeing it on the video. I'm like, And I was so young. I was just like, whoa, what does this all mean? But I just felt something,
I need to watch the video.
Well, it worked.
Yeah.
Something in light with that, but different. Is I was watching the new Wonder Woman with my 3-year-old
good things.
daughter the other day. This is, again, a vulnerable moment. I cried in the opening scene.
Heavens to Betsy.
It is an epic opening scene, and I won't spoil it, but this little girl and what she does in the first 8 minutes, it moved me.
I've got 4 daughters, so I guess I'll have to watch that.
You and my stepdad should have a talk. I'm the oldest of 3 girls.
Yeah, well, I need to talk with somebody.
A professional.
I need a shoulder. I need a shoulder. Whose shoulder can I cry
What's your email?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Here, just plug in.
There you go. Yeah.
All right, let's hear
Bless
yours.
You're up.
Okay, so I tried to. Well, let me give you a precursor. My definition of a goat, which everybody has a little bit different one.
We still have 2 deep questions to get to, by the way. We're 25 minutes
Uh-oh.
in. We may go a little long for your ride to work and home
quick
today.
ass.
So
Yeah. Okay, so the definition for me of a GOAT is someone who did something that many people thought was impossible or hadn't done before and did it better than most people that came after them. So for me, that's my version.
I love that.
So the kind of cliche one, I think Henry Ford is one of those people who was able to take an idea of something and make it, to your point, approachable.
Okay.
So I think that's one. Mary Kay
stove.
Ash, who invented Mary Kay. When I think about great marketers, she comes to mind. For a while, I can't remember ever knowing any other makeup of any kind besides Mary Kay. And I know
she's
so
the
many
pink
people,
Cadillac too, right? Like, I mean, that's no one thinks of anybody else when they see a pink
quintessential
Cadillac.
branding mark. When you see it on the interstate, you're like, they're a Mary Kay person. Probably the most, and I know you guys have brought him up before, but he made my list, was Steve Jobs. I think anybody who can conceptualize something that didn't exist before is one of the greatest.
Sure.
And can also
a good one.
rally people around an idea of something that does not exist. Like him literally saying, I'm going to put music in your pocket, was one of the moments that the world stood still because they could not comprehend what he was meaning.
Makes me think of Frank the Tank.
Frank the Tank.
He rallied everybody with something that didn't exist.
He did. We're going streaking.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's true.
Wait, say your definition of the GOAT again.
I think my definition of a GOAT is someone who has done something that either no one else has done before or hasn't conquered, who and then continues to do it better than anyone else that comes after them.
Like a Netflix.
Well done.
Netflix is a great example. And actually, they started out as a failure. I don't know if you know
They
that
did.
story. But okay, so Lee Iacocca. Do you guys know who that is?
I don't.
Okay, so he's actually kind of known for being the big marketing executive brain behind the Mustang.
Yeah.
And he left Ford and went to Chrysler, and he actually was kind of credited with his brilliance behind the minivan, which actually brought Chrysler out of really
recession.
basically bankruptcy, brought them back into, and they really are credited with the minivan.
That's cool.
So, you know, he had a brilliant mind that would think outside the box. And I really, you know, recently I watched Ford versus Mustang, and he gets a
that's
lot of
cool.
credit. So if you've seen that, that's him in the movie.
Okay.
So that's a movie, Ford versus Mustang?
Yes. And I highly recommend watching it, especially if you like cars. But
Ford versus Ferrari.
My dad.
Ferrari, you're right.
My dad has a GT 500, so.
Oh,
we like
wow.
Because I was thinking Ford versus Mustang. I mean, that would be a good movie, but
It would.
that's not. That's not.
That's
Ford
kind of
v
like the
Mustang.
same thing. Yeah. You're
That's why I
right.
was like, that's
You're
interesting.
right. Yes, you're right. You're right. Niki Lauda is this kind of in the car world as well, Formula One champion, and he's one of the only, if not the only, I think he is the only champion to win in both a Ferrari and a McLaren. And those are the top two, or especially in his time frame, the top two cars in Formula One. It's very like taboo to work for both. You're either one or the other, and he won championships in both. So I think
You know, you're rattling off goats as if you may never get the chance to be on this podcast again. So I just want to.
I have two more. I have one more.
Oh, wow.
So have you guys seen Hidden Figures? Have you? I already
yeah.
knew you were going to say no.
I think I
So
have.
Dorothy Vaughan, the first Black female supervisor for NASA, she's in the movie. She is the one who learns how to operate the big room that is the computer, and she really was somebody who, in that movie, when I was watching it, it was resonating with me so much how she was continually getting told no.
Did she just die?
I don't know.
Feels like that might have been just.
But way
in
to
the
put a
news,
damper
but
on my
sorry.
story.
Seriously.
Well, she's a legacy.
She is.
She's a
Yeah.
legend.
Yeah. So I really admire people, especially in her time, to be a Black female at NASA, which, in case you guys don't know, fun
great
Rachel Layton
movie.
fact, I always wanted to work for NASA. NASA, I will come work for you. Just call me.
They're trying to sponsor the podcast.
Yeah. Maybe
We're
this
just
will
being
help.
careful who we
you
let
know.
in. at
Maybe
this
they'll
point.
help. They'll.
It's either
this'll
them or
help.
Kate Spade.
Hey, Sinlon did a turf job at NASA, by the way.
Ooh.
Throw
I
that
remember
little,
you saying
little
that.
tidbit in there.
I mean, if you can get me connected,
it's the
I
only
mean, that would be-
bio-based turf in the industry, and that's what NASA decided to go with us.
Of course.
Wow.
Look
So-
at that.
NASA is super environmental friendly.
Big time.
All right,
Yep.
How are you feeling? Are you good on? the
Yeah, I
goats?
mean, you have my
got
other one in
seven
your
or eight-
notes,
7 or
which
8
is sort of
more?
what spurred the.
Well, let me just
topic.
drop a little goat in there real quick,
Yep.
piggybacking off
Yep.
kind of your goats and what you've gone to. And of course, being a baseball guy, I got to throw in Jackie Robinson.
Yeah.
I mean, all the turmoil he went through, all the name
Yep.
calling, all the. I would imagine. I don't know what that's like, but I would imagine that would have been so easy to quit.
Oh yeah.
And so easy to say, you know what, this is just forget it. This isn't worth it.
Yep.
And what he did so like you said, your definition of a goat is he opened up a door that
Yes.
had never been opened before. And I
There's
think
not
that's
a
really
single little league team that doesn't have a kid on there that wants number 42.
That is so true.
Black, white,
Yep.
Hispanic, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
Not a single kid.
That's
I love
true.
it.
Well, who is the one that's spurned this conversation?
So, did you guys ever watch the recent series that came out called Queen's Gambit?
God, it's so good.
I have not.
So good.
Okay, this is going on your long list of homework.
cool. Okay. I have a very long list.
Yeah,
You do.
He
it's
always
getting
does.
longer the longer I'm here too.
No, we got
Yeah.
to shut this thing
Yeah.
down.
Are you writing this down? With
I'm
your
never going to be able to
your
catch
He's
up.
notepad?
not taking notes, so that's worrying
I
me
do
a little.
for it.
I see you doing that there. Okay, so Beth Harmon in the movie is the main character, and she is kind of this chess prodigy. She starts out being an orphan. She has a very, very tough beginning, and I don't want to ruin too much of it, but she essentially learns how at a very young age how to play chess, and she ends up becoming a champion by the end of it and beating someone who was known for being unbeatable. Through it, she struggles with a lot of things, and one of the things that I was telling John about was there was a part of that movie that just pierced me, and a series that I haven't been able to let go of ever since. And it was where they were talking about having gifts, and all of us in the world have a gift. Whether we know what it is or whether we honor it, those are all up for discussion.
True.
But there's a moment where he's talking about her gift, and he says, you have your gift and you have what it costs. And it really, as a young female, in an industry that is full-time all the time, I was thinking to myself, like, whoa, I've always known and thought about the gift. I've rarely thought about what it costs. And she gives up a lot in that whole series of herself, of things she wants, and she's very unique in that way. And there was a lot of moments that I felt connected to her because of being young and knowing things I was giving up to get to where I am at this point in my life. And I felt like she's definitely a GOAT. I mean, an artificial character, but really one of the greatest of all time. And thinking about how do you overcome the unknown and the impossible, especially when you're looked at sort of as the underdog. So it's kind of fun. America loves underdogs.
And in a field where it was dominated by men.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying this conversation with Rachel Layton, managing partner at the Juice Bar. And
Goat of the Juice Bar.
Yeah, the first female goat and the first guest that we've ever had on location right here at Pod Studio One.
Epic moment.
Yeah, and we look forward to, we decided this was going so well, we decided to break it up into two.
We got to keep it a quick cast.
Yeah, we got to keep it, we got to honor our heritage as a car ride to work and a car ride home. And so part two, I think you'll want to listen to it next week. It's titled Youre the Man. Look forward to seeing you then.
Boom.